Hi everyone, Kathy here with the Math Collective. Today we're going to talk about using our whole class read alouds, whether it's picture book or a chapter book, to inspire our math story problems. So I can't wait to get into this work with you. We're going to start by considering what are readers in your grade level expected to be able to do. So just take a moment and think about the skills and the comprehension work that you're doing as a classroom teacher, and just make a little mental list for yourself. What are the things that they are working on? If you need a little bit more time, feel free to hit pause. Otherwise, we're going to move on. And I'm going to bet that some of these story elements came up in your thinking about reading comprehension work. From who the characters are, to the plot, to the problems and solutions and the setting where the story is taking place. These story elements are really, really critical to the work that our students are doing as readers from as young as TK, all the way up to our high school level students. The work just becomes increasingly more sophisticated as they're getting older. And this is actually the same work that we're asking them to do when they are reading and understanding a math story problem. Here you see a question from a third grade New York State assessment. 3 classes are on a field trip at the zoo. The number of students in each class is listed below. Class A has 24 students, Class B has 23 students, and Class C has 25 students. At the zoo, all of the students are placed into 8 equal groups. How many students are in each group? Show your work. So as we're thinking of what's being expected of our mathematicians in order to read, comprehend, make sense of this problem, and then make a jump to the equation that they would use to solve it, they're going to be utilizing a lot of the reading skills that they're working on outside of math workshop time. For example, if we look at the characters in this story, who are the characters? Well, the students, of course. And the plot and the setting together, the class is going on a field trip, and then our setting is the zoo. Problem and solution. It seems like the problem might be organizing those groups, and the solution is something that the mathematicians are going to help figure out, like how many of the students will be in each of those groups. In this case, we don't really have a central message or a theme that's coming out or particularly relevant to solving this problem. And illustrations are not here either. So thinking later on, we'll talk about how you can use an illustration to inspire a story problem. But for this particular story problem, we don't really see the need for considering illustrations either. And being able to identify who are the characters, what's the issue, it pertains to both our reading that we ask our students to be able to do and to make sense of, and also our mathematical story problems. I recently shared this story problem on my Instagram account. And the 4th grade class that I was supporting was in the middle of reading Island of the Blue Dolphins here in California. And it made so much sense to use that chapter book as a context and inspiration for a story problem, because the students were super well versed in the character, the setting, and the issues that she was facing. So it did a lot of the heavy lifting for them. In this problem, Karana, who's the main character, is collecting abalone, which we know she does a lot because that's one of the food sources that keeps her alive during the winter months. They want to know that if she collects the same amount of abalone each day, how many days will it take for her to reach her goal? So just being really aware that by basing this story problem, which is a division problem, in a context that's familiar with characters that the students already know, we took away a lot of that heavy lifting and making sense of this new universe for the students so that they can get down to the math. You'll notice that I omitted the story problem numbers. So when we're first revealing the problem to students, I don't include the numbers intentionally. And the reason for that is I really want them to pay attention to comprehending what the question is asking of them. And then the next step is to reveal the number choices. So students have the option of choosing 2 of the numbers together that are in the parentheses. Each parenthesis represents a choice of number, like a set. And then they take the first number and it goes in the first blank and the second number goes in the second blank. And the reason why I implement number choices into all of the story problems that I do with students and with educators is because it creates space for independence. The students can choose which number set to work with. If they finish early, they choose another one to work on. And that builds independence, right? We don't want our students to race through a problem, say, I'm done, and now the teacher is left trying to figure out what the students are going to be doing next. So it builds in that differentiation with a number set for everybody. And that also creates space for the teacher to be able to confer with different groups of students and for that small group instruction, which we know is so impactful and powerful. So without asking our educators to create multiple story problems and different work for different groups of kids, one really well-designed story problem can keep the whole class busy and meet the needs of our different levels of mathematicians so that it promotes independence, but at the same time gives the teacher space to walk around and to confer intentionally with the students. One other way that we can use our read alouds to inspire our story problems is to consider our picture books. So it doesn't really matter what picture book you pick. This one is These Are My Rocks. And if you first read it to your students, you can then come back to the problems and you could say, okay, well, what do we notice? What do we wonder about this image? And we could see that this stinky collection has 6 items in it. And you could say anything, really. You could say if we have 6 stinky items and we get 10 more stinky items, how many stinky items do we have? Or if we have 6 stinky items and someone else has a stinky collection with 7 stinky items, how many stinky items do we have altogether? Or you can even say, if I have 6 stinky items in my collection, and this is an enormous collection of fan mail, how many more items are in this collection than there are in the stinky collection? There's so many opportunities within the illustrations or within the context of the picture books that we read. I'm going to show the cover of this a little bit better. That can really inspire the work that we do as mathematicians, as educators, to create engaging context for our problems, to meet students where they are, but to also make our problems a little bit more fun than they might be from a scripted curriculum. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out. I'd love for you to leave comments if you try any of this out with your students. Let me know how it goes. And as always, subscribe so that you can be the first to know when there's new content released. Thanks so much.